Hey, this is More Than Velocity. I'm Bart Pear here with Jordan Osagara, and today we are talking with Jimmy Lee from Towson University Baseball. He's an athletic trainer there. They've been using arm care in a couple of different ways and seeing some unique things. And we just thought, hey, let's get Jimmy on here and let's talk about it, because I know some people out there would be interested to see how you're running it in a school setting and what's going on. So, Jimmy, why don't you just kind of give us a quick background, who you are, what you're doing at Towson, and then how you started using arm care.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you guys for having me on. I've been an athletic trainer for probably about 8 years or so. I got my start. Obviously, athletic trainers know that you kind of start in undergrad. So I was at a Division III school, not a lot of objective measurements outside of some girth measurements and, goniometry. From there, I got my master's at Auburn, where I worked primarily football and men's tennis, but I got to spend like 2 weeks with the baseball team when I was there, in season, right when Butch Thompson had kind of got that thing rolling. And, as a GA intern, like I was just kind of standing out there by the bullpen one day for one of the starters, and he just started talking to me about pitching. And that really had a lasting impact on me. So from there, I went and I worked as a year-long intern for the Washington Commanders for a year, 2 years in Houston with the Texans. And then as you get towards the end of that kind of path, you're like, it's Power Five football, it's Group of Five football if you want to continue the athletic training career in football. And I just kept going back to those couple weeks at Auburn with the baseball team, and I was like, that was a lot of fun. I did it in undergrad with Kane's team, and that was a great challenge. And I was just looking for the next challenge, and I was like, if I stay on the football path, you kind of know what you're getting. And that experience was great because it opened me up to objective measures like using the Nord board or some force plates. So, just being able to learn about the data and then see how an NFL team used it was really, really interesting. But I just started looking for baseball jobs.
Yeah, real quick on that. Do you mind going into some of the differences? Because I've known a lot of guys who've gone from Major League Baseball to NFL. And they're like, oh my gosh, they do analytics. They do everything so much better in the NFL than they do with baseball. And baseball is kind of a little bit late to the party of getting into the data and the analytics and really looking at the stuff compared to the other sports. People may not realize how analytics driven the NFL is, especially when it comes for the ATs of keeping guys on the field, prescribing those workloads and volumes. I remember I was talking to some of the groups at a convention, probably in 2015, 2016, where they're tracking movement, they're tracking a lot of straight lever shoulder strength. And all these things are just like, hey, you know what? Our offensive lineman is actually only going to do half the reps today because his shoulder strength is down. So they're looking so deep into this. And it's kind of cool that it's getting into baseball now. Obviously, we're kind of pushing that through the arm care stuff. But can you give a little bit of insight on that, or is that something we can't really go into too much?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, the one thing I'll say for analytics in football is I probably left right before the coaching revolution. I think really the only team using analytics when I was still there, and that was 2019 would be my last season. I mean, a lot of the talk was about what the Patriots were doing with their running backs. But there wasn't a lot of conversation about it, even though McVay, LaFleur, and Shanahan were probably putting that stuff in their offense. But on the sports medicine side, I mean, you got to think about the impact that Catapult has had.
That's the system, Catapult. Yeah.
That's the first thing you walk in and you're like, oh, wow. So, you have the staff basically trying to monitor workloads on a daily basis. And that's something that stuck with me pretty heavy because, the one thing that the coach can always do is say that, oh, well, like, he did a ladder drill, so it shook the machine and, that workload's a little bit higher. It's like, okay, you could take the anomaly out without throwing out the data as a whole. And the data as a whole really lends itself to volume and intensity, how much you're doing, how much you want to be doing, and where you go. And I think that one of the cooler things in Houston was, and Coach O'Brien was there. I mean, he was really willing to have conversations about what is the workload intake right now? How high are we? Where should we be? And how far back do we need to get? And especially the high speed running. I mean, if you look at like the hamstring strains, that's the toughest thing, right? Like you got to keep those guys on the field. It's so hard. The prevention part of it's so difficult, not just in football, but in baseball too. So that's what you're chasing. And when you have a guy that already is in the cycle, can you use that data to help you, kind of break it? And in some cases you absolutely can, but you don't have full control over what they're doing when they're not there. Right. But it's funny that you say, MLB being behind NFL, because I do think that there's probably some merit to that, especially because like when I walked out, I was like, I don't know how I would use like there's catapult for baseball. Like it's definitely usable and we're trying to use it here, but it's like, that's not going to help me with the shoulder. And we can use the force plate, but it gets tough with how many guys you have on an NFL team. I remember we were doing some force plate stuff at the beginning, and you're using the video, trying to go back and look at the force plate, and our director of rehab was doing it. And like, you're going to do the big guys first. And then towards the end of training camp, I mean, we've got guys cut that videos we still didn't review. So it's like, would that have been the difference? Probably not. But it's like, we wish we could have just had the manpower to get it done. But I think the most underutilized item was the Nord board when I was in the NFL. And that's not like, it's still fairly new. I mean, we had a couple, and then you're trying to go back and forth. What are the best ways to use it? But really, when I was interviewing for baseball, I did an interview with Towson, right? Simultaneously, I was interviewing to go work in the GCL for the Astros.
You made the right choice. The GCL is not where you want to be.
I just, I was like, well, also, I was 27, 28, and I had done the internships already. And my soon to be fiance was pretty much like, you got to make a big choice here. You want to keep moving, or do you want to settle down somewhere? And I was like, I get the message here. Yes. Like settling down is probably a good call. But that interview process was so difficult, in a good way too. Their coordinator for all things strength and conditioning and sport performance had me on the phone for an hour and was just grilling me about how we did things in the NFL. And everything I said, he told me that I was wrong and about the opposite. And I was trying so hard to like be patient. We're in the middle of a playoff run, so work's super stressful. I'm hiding in the press box doing an interview. I'm sweating bullets, and I get done. And he's just kind of like, I mean, some of the stuff you were saying, I definitely agree with. He's like, but I wanted to make you sweat a little bit and just see how you'd react if I told you what I thought was wrong. But the one thing he told me that stuck with me was talking about the Nord board, especially. He's like, so when do you guys use it when someone gets hurt? And I was kind of, I mean, I don't make that decision. We use it closer to when they're getting on the field. Guys don't really like it because they can feel their hamstring,
So he's quickly like, explain what a Nord board is for those people that don't know.
Yeah. So the Nord board tests hamstring strength mostly eccentrically. So you're able to kind of lock their legs in, and then they lower themselves slowly down and control themselves. And then you can measure, it's usually in newtons. And from there, you can look at issues bilaterally or just strength deficits for the individual. So usually what you want to do is baseline guys, right? So we baseline everybody on the way in, and then there'd usually be a mid-season test. Guys didn't like it because, like, to me, it was like, well, how often are you truly doing Nordics in your own training if you're really feeling it here? And if you've had a hamstring injury, if you feel that, like, you get really, really nervous. So that was one of the big things where it was like very tough for a guy coming off an injury for us to use it again, because they didn't trust what the Nord board was giving them, because they could feel it. And if you've had enough and it's your career, you're going to give us a really hard time. But he was like, well, why aren't you doing it isometrically? And that blew my mind, because at that point, like, we only used the one setting. We got, 53 guys. We got 10 guys we're trying out every week. Like, there is a lot going on. And if that's not something that's been talked about, how do you know? So that always stuck with me in my mind, just that idea of like, why can't you get a submax isometric test after an injury, to see like how low are they, and if they can't push, like why is that? Is it the injury? And a lot of times with isometric testing, it's fairly safe because they're not moving the joint, the muscle length isn't changing. So you can get good data. And that was something that even when I got to Towson and we finally got a Nord board last year, I was like, we're baselining everybody. We're going to baseline them in ISO. And then the first hamstring strain we had the next day, I was like, we're going to go in, talk through your patient, make sure they know the parameters so that they don't hurt themselves doing it. But I was able to get instant data and then use that to form a return to play protocol, instead of waiting until like right before we're like, oh, we'll put them back out there. Let's check it real quick. Because then it's like, well, if it's super off again, what do you do? Or was that how they were normally? And then how much did they lose from the injury? So those conversations with the coaches got a lot easier. And that's just something from them that really stuck with me. And then at that point, it was like, well, how do I do this for the shoulder? Because that's the that's the only thing we're talking about in baseball, especially at my level. They're worried about hamstrings and things, but like they coaches will feel like that's going to take care of itself. The big thing they feel like they'll lose on is pitchers missing time. And I knew taking the Towson job, I was not going to get the answers to the textbook. I knew if I went into an MLB organization, like I would get their answers to the textbook. And that would be really helpful, but it felt like a really big challenge to go to a mid-major program and have to figure that out on my own. Mm-hmm. And the first year, I mean, we ran into COVID, but when I got here, we had 4 guys already out of surgery, getting ready for the throwing programs. And I was like, I don't really have anything objectively to say, like, when you should return to throwing. So that was the first thing. And the guy before me was fantastic, but he was like, I didn't have the exposure to the NFL. So like, I didn't even think about that, like, right. Why would you? But once you get exposed to it, you realize like how important that can be. And that's something that, my boss here talks about. So first thing I did when I got there is I told all the kids, I was like, you guys have all been in baseball your whole lives. You've been around it. You follow people, you follow training regimens. I want to see it. Let me kind of make my decision on whether I think it's kooky or good or bad. And I've seen what I feel like can't possibly be everything because there's so much. But if there was somebody on Instagram they liked, like they would bring it in, we'd sit down, we'd talk about it. And so that led to one of my players coming back from summer break and being like, over break, we used this device and it showed me my arm strength. And, they used a dynamometer. And I was like, whatever this is, like, you need to bring this to me like right now. He's like, oh, you think you'd be interested in that? I was like, 100%. Like, I'm looking for something that's going to help me. And, like, even going through my true first season after COVID, we had our best reliever, right? In the mid-major, you might have like one guy who's an absolute dude. And then you have a lot of guys who have specialties, one good pitch, special batters. They face a certain team a lot. But we had one kid who was like our go-to. We need to win a game. And we were playing 4 games a weekend. And he pitched a lot. So he pitches in a game and we're back on the field the next day. We're in a doubleheader. And our pitching coach is like, we need him. We don't have a lot of pitching. We have to win this game. We're trying to get to the conference tournament. We need this guy. And he was like, can you get him ready? And that was the first moment where from there, I was like, I have nothing at my disposal to figure this out. And between finding objective measurements and realizing I don't know how to tell my coach if this guy can pitch or not, like, that was such a helpless feeling because we're out there and I'm like, do you think you can go? And he's like, I mean, I'm taking the ball. Like, I'm not pitching after this year, so I'm taking the ball. I'm like, well, what if he wasn't pitching after this year? What if he was going to get drafted? We've had kids that have gotten drafted. Like, what do I tell this kid who's looking at me, or this coach? Like, because at that time too, with our pitching coach, like, if I had said no shot, like, he would have listened to me. He would have trusted me. But I was like, I don't have anything for me to trust. And as soon as
here's the other thing too, is like, you're trying to get into the conference tournament. You're trying to make sure you get into the postseason. And you ask this player, are you going to be good to go? He goes, I'm not pitching next year. Why not? It's like, well, that tells me you're not at even a half tank, like you're not the guy when it comes down to it that I'm like, you're the one who I need to go to right now because you're like, let's roll the dice, Yeah. And it's like, throw caution to the wind. Sometimes that's fine in that context. Like, you still could have some issues going on, but it's still like, if you want to win, sometimes you need to use that third option who's recovered and just piece things together in a weird puzzle. I was actually just on a conversation the other day with, I forget who it was, but the same situation. They're like, look, we have, like 3 relievers that are good. Those are our group A guys. Then we have a group B, a group C, and a group D. And they're talking about like trying to mix and match. Like, if my group D guys can be group C's by the end of the seasons, and I have one guy out of my group B that's a group A by the end of the season, then we did good. Yeah. But it's just like, sometimes in those scenarios, you got to learn who you can mix and match between those. And then one thing I wanted to add in on that too is you look at the way baseball used to do it. And when I say they're late to the party, they're starting to use dynamometry now. Yeah. I mean, me and Bart are excited that we're kind of part of the group that's pushing isometric dynamometry. It used to be brake force testing. And I'm sure you're familiar with brake force testing. And I mean, if you have two trainers, 3 trainers, 4 trainers, they're all going to get different numbers on the same guy. And then the players don't like brake force testing because you're cranking on their arm, you're resisting. And it's almost the same issue as the Nord board, where they're not comfortable giving that effort out. Nord board's awesome. I'm not ragging on Nord board, It's just that's a complaint the players get, which is why we go with isometric testing using our dynamometer. Is now it's what effort can you give me? And it's a consistent baseline because a wall's a wall, a pole's a pole. Your effort is your effort. And I'm either going to know that you're dogging on the effort or you're giving me your full strength. And either way, if you're dogging on the effort, you're probably not the guy I want to put in the game anyways. So it's a very clear evaluative point, but sorry about that. I got
no, 100%. And to add on that too, I mean, I'm in meetings just pounding on the table about this stuff at work because, you know, my bosses are a little bit more old school, which I do think like it meshes really well if you're flexible enough to add in both. But he's like, well, I mean, you know, how much are we really going to put into isometric testing? And I'm just banging on the table. I'm like, as much as we can. Like, this is the safest way to get objective measurements. I'm like, I'm using it every single day pretty much with these guys. Like, this matters.
To
then
give a quick example is, you know, we're not the crystal ball. We're polishing the crystal ball so you get a better view of what's going on. And we looked at it the same way with scouting. Was we went through with the Angels, me and Ryan, and you know, we went through our entire PD system and we determined what do we actually improve well, what do we not do well, and then we relayed that information to our scouts. So if it was, you know, a changeup that we were really good at developing, and a guy has a really good fastball slider combo, we can probably teach him a changeup. Let's take that guy. If there's a guy that's, you know, really good, you know, fastball changeup, but he needs a curveball to be a successful big leaguer, and we don't teach that well, we're polishing that crystal ball. Not to say, you know, we're gonna magically change this guy all of a sudden. We're just trying to get 80% of the way there, and then 20% of that on our gut is going to fill in those gaps to make the right decisions. So, you know, that's where that isometric training comes in. So you're dead on, and I think that's pretty cool because you have a really unique experience, which I get excited about because you've had the NFL, which looks at things so much more analytics than baseball. Where with analytics, they're like, "Hey Bart, how do you feel today?" You go, "I feel great. I can go to post." And then Bart turns to you and goes, "Jimmy, there's no chance today." And then the coach goes, "Well, Bart said he's good. So what do you mean he's not good? He told me he was fine. I trust this guy's word." As he goes out there and gives up a 9 spot, and you're no longer in the conference tournament.
I mean, let me say, we did make the conference tournament, but that day we put him back in. All three of us understood the risk. Like, the kid was like, "I understand the risk here," and I was like, all right, we're all on the same page. I don't love it, but like, I'm still young enough where I'm going to be like, let's throw our hat in the ring. It didn't work out. He got Hofstra hit a sorry, can't curse, my bad. Hofstra hit a bomb off us. But you know, and then we had to shut him down for like a week because he was so sore. So lesson learned that was a huge mistake. And you know, he just wasn't built up at that point in the season to do something like that. But once this device like came into my stratosphere, I would say last year I was so bent on proving that it was going to work, because at Towson we're a mid-major team, we're a mid-major school. You know, we have funds, but baseball isn't the most funded sport. So if I'm going to ask for something, I got to know that it works before I go and ask my bosses or, you know, coaching staff to give me something that I know that I'm going to be the one running. I got to make sure like I'm 100% certain that this is going to, one, help me. And if it helps me, it helps the team. And so I had to purchase a device. I had to purchase a dynamometer, and then I purchased myself like a profile. And so for the first month I had it, I was using myself. I was like trying to play catch with guys, and I was getting objective numbers. I just wasn't getting anything tangible. I was like, all right, well, I had to start trying this on my athletes. And we've been trying to figure out a way to do some screens. Screens take forever. I didn't like how we were doing T-spine rotation. I kept tinkering with it. We go through the entire fall, and I had nothing worth of anything on the screens that I'm comfortable with. And I've got this device that I think works. And so I just started using it with injured players, because if you're an athletic trainer and you work in any sport, but especially baseball and probably softball as well, but you can have a totally normal table exam for a pitcher and they cannot throw without pain. I have had that so often where they come in and you can look at their range of motion and maybe they've got a little bit of gird, but when you look at their total arc, they're pretty clean. And then you go back and you do all your manual muscle testing and everything's a 5 out of 5, or you can cheat it, make it a 4+ out of 5 if you want. And they're killing in the weight room, but they're telling me when they go to throw a baseball, like they're in pain. They don't feel good. They're not comfortable with what's going on. So I think this was the first time I had a kid come in from outside. He was a JUCO transfer, and he was an outfielder. And he was like, I've had 2 labrum surgeries already. So he was at Oregon State, tore his labrum once, rehabbed, tore it again, surgically repaired again, kicked out to JUCO, came to us and was like, he basically showed up day one. He was like, I think I have another tear. I think I have 3 tears, and I don't know this kid. He's supposed to be an outfielder for us. And I'm like, this is a disaster for me. And when we used the dynamometer, he was weak across the board. So I was like, well, how did your rehab go the first time? He was like, it went good. I did everything I was supposed to. And then, I was kind of following the throwing program, and then I just went too fast and blew out again. I was like, how was it the second time? He goes, oh, I didn't really do my rehab. And I was like, well, yeah, there you go. But as we used the dynamometer, I was able to watch his strength levels increase. And then we were able to start from scratch and build them up. And by the end of the spring, he was able to play center field for us a little bit in spots. It didn't work out just from a hitting perspective with us, but Louisville Slugger, he played for one of their summer ball teams, and they came by and they were asking me about him because they were like, yeah, how did you like that kid's like looked like he had a pretty live arm. Like, what was he like when he was here? And I was like, oh, when he got here, he couldn't pick up a baseball. And that was the first moment where I was like, okay, there's a piece for this in what I'm doing, as I saw him go through the spring in the spring. And then in the fall, we had a pitcher come in, same thing, transfer, JUCO kid. He's like, my arm's just killing me. He's like, and my velo's like 82. It used to be like 85. He's like, and it just hurts when I throw. And I did the tests. I did all my exams with him, right? Normal table exam. Nothing really bothers him. And then we put him with the dynamometer, and he had 8 pounds of force, external rotation. And I was like, all right, his internal was great. His internal, I mean, was still a little low normative data, but it was like 35, and he had an 8. I watched that number. I was like, all right, so now I know where we have to go.
Answers a lot of questions for you.
Right. Well, I can just in a rehab plan, whoever is the rehabber, you have the way you like to do things. You have your go-to exercises, your movement patterns for warm-ups. I think a lot of those things can become very standard, especially if you're just getting a normal exam. If you're getting something abnormal, then you kind of know you want to focus in that area. Once we had ER at an 8, I was like, all right, we have to focus significantly on building that back up. And we were able to get it back into the 20s into the spring, and he was telling me it started to feel a little bit better. And then when he's returned now, he still has a huge gap IR to ER because his IR has just always been pretty strong. But once we got him back, he was so much stronger external rotation, and a lot of the pain and issues he was having throwing stopped. Well, now that your arm doesn't hurt every time you can throw, you can focus on what it actually takes to be a pitcher. Mm-hmm. And I think that really helped him as we kind of move forward, even into this year. I mean, it's something that he's conscious of. Or if it's starting to hurt again, he's like, all right, well, I haven't been doing what I needed to do. I have an old spreadsheet from the spring, and when he came in, he had a 28 for external rotation. So throughout, a 4-week span in the fall, once we figured it out, we were able to get it up 20 pounds. And all of a sudden, a lot of those pain issues, they started to go away. A lot of the tendonitis issues, all those overuse feelings, like they started to disappear because he was starting to get strong enough where he could handle throwing. And then that was in my mind where it was like, okay, this tool might be the most important piece of my practice. And if I'm going to continue to be an athletic trainer in baseball, I can't go anywhere where I don't have this. And then it was like, all right, so now I need to be able to do this full tilt. So in the spring, we kind of had a couple guys with portals, whoever I kind of wanted to sign up for it. And I managed the starters and a couple of the heavy relievers, and really opened up the conversations about recovery. I mean, younger athletes, like, they don't know. That's another thing that I learned from doing this. They have no idea. The pitching coach will tell them, when you go home for the winter, work at 60% of your total workload. And they're like, I don't know what my total workload is supposed to be.
Yep.
But having this tool opens up those conversations for me to have with them and for me to have with the pitching coach. So now he knows I know what I'm talking about because I have something to bring him to show him what these numbers look like.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, you know, you get to have better conversations about like, hey, what are you doing during the week? Like, what is your arm care routine? Are you doing what I've already put out for you? No? Okay, why not? Oh, it's not convenient. Okay, got it. Well, how can we make it more convenient? And they're like, I don't know. So then I'm watching practice and I'm like, why are all the pitchers shagging fly balls during BP? You know, we'll hit BP for like an hour and a half. I'm like, can we rotate them? Do we need them all in like clusters out there, like chit chatting? So now we have them all rotating so that they can all get their arm care in. So there's no excuse. And then I'll just sit in the pen with the bands. So like they can't just walk in there and just like hang out, you know, like they can just lay on a foam roller for a little bit and then be like, oh, I did my arm care. I'm in there. They have questions, or like, you know, if they're like, hey, I'm like kind of fatigued today, I don't really want to do it. It's like, oh, okay, well, but I can go in and on my phone and look at their, you know, their score. So I know that, you know, instead of just being like, oh, you're sore today. Yeah. You know, don't worry. So,
yeah, that's always the way it works in the real world. Hey, I'm a little bit tired. I'm just not going to do anything. It's like, yeah, I don't think that's how it works.
I tell the coaches all the time, like, hey, I'm just kind of tired. I'm not coming to practice today.
I'm trying to train to be one of the best athletes
yeah.
that Towson's ever seen, but I'm going to take a couple days off.
Yeah. So, and then even in the spring, we had some guys who would fall into the category of they were good. They didn't have injury worries, right? Just up their total scores, right? Strength to velo ratio. We had a kid with a 1.69 coming into the spring on his baseline. Heavy curveball. That's like the main pitch in his repertoire. Didn't throw it a lot over winter break. Gets back. Obviously, you know that the preseason for baseball is not really conducive to safety as far as injury risk from an arm standpoint. So he, you know, he's getting ready, gearing up, throwing a lot of curveballs in his pens, just trying to get that pitch game ready. And now he's telling me he's got this pinch. I've got this pinch in my elbow. I don't know. And now he's got, you know, we kind of figured out it was just some tendonitis in his forearm. Everything with the UCL was clean. So I'm like, okay, well, now that you're shut down from throwing, like, let's take a look. His scores dropped significantly. He started in the preseason with an IR strength of 35. That had dropped down into the teens. And his external rotation strength was, I think, 46. And that had really, really plummeted. And I was like, is your arm, like, why are your scores going down? And he's like, I don't feel as comfortable. He's like, I'm trying on the test. He's like, but in lift, with his band routine, with coming in to see me, he's like, I'm just trying to give myself more rest and not working as hard while still throwing. So now he's fatiguing, and that's making his problem worse. But when we went to go start to, you know, put him back into throwing again, you know, he took about 3 weeks off. We did a slow progression. He's an inning 2 reliever. Well, now I was able to, like, before he started throwing, I'm like, well, let's see if let's get you back to baseline. So when his coach is like, hey, you told me 3 weeks, it's 3 weeks. Is this kid ready to go? Elbow feels great. Table exam looks normal. Everything feels fine. Last piece, though, is I can run this test. And now I'm more confident in the decision I'm making because I'm not just putting him out there.
Yep.
I'm not just saying, oh, I think he's good. I can see that his strength has turned back to where it was. And now when he does start to throw and he feels pain-free, like his shoulder is strong enough. And education-wise, it's like, you know, sometimes in those things where your arm doesn't feel good, come to me before we get to the point where your arm score has dragged down and your elbow's killing you and you can't throw the one pitch that like is your moneymaker. Mm-hmm. Give me the opportunity to try and fix it while we go so we can stay on the field instead of taking you off. And those conversations have really been the driving force for like what our program has used arm care for. And then this year I was able to get some coach approval. We got 5 devices. We got every single pitcher, the app and a portal and a login. And they've tested twice a week, all season, pretty much all fall. And it was just like somebody comes in with dead arm. Well, let's go look at your arm. let's go look at the numbers here.
It's
Let's
giving
see.
you that information to dive in and see what's actually going on without guessing.
Yeah.
We probably have time for like one more question, and I think it'll be a cool one. If you don't mind going over, obviously you guys are starting back up here any day.
Yeah.
How are you going to use that information to relay to your coaches? Here's where we should start these guys off. After coming out, we're just finishing up. It's early January right now. Maybe you guys start working out in about a week or something like that. But how are you going to relay that information to say, look, we need to look at this guy a little bit deeper, delay his program. Let's actually move this guy along a little quicker. He's done everything he needs to. So what are some ways you're going to use that?
The first step, and it used to be like the day you come back, like we're first practice, we're going. First day they come back now, we're doing a weight room session. We're going to let our strength coach Henry get eyes on them, see how they progress and move through a workout, see who's been doing what. And then they have to come in for pitching wise and do their arm care score, right? And then before we make a move, like I get to look at the data, interpret it, see who dropped significantly, who's been following it, who hasn't. And then if we need to do reductions based off the coach's plan, we'll do that. And we're going to look at it and see who's dropped more. And then those conversations get to take place instead of just being like, oh, you don't feel like you're ready. Like, why don't you feel like you're ready? Or what we did maybe last year. It's like, hey, maybe that was a little too much versus, hey, where do we need to be? I mean, we've had a couple guys that, due to some unforeseen incidences, missed some time in the fall. And one of the important things for us is before we put them back into some throwing protocols was one, looking at their arm score, and then figure out like, where do you want them to be week 1 of the season? Because we don't have so much time. So it's like, you tell me what we need, where we need to be volume and intensity wise. And then we'll use this system to basically figure out, are they meeting that score?
So you're taking where the coaches want them to be, working backwards from there, and then formulating a plan to get there.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's
because to me, I'm not trying to use this to go against the current. I saw that a lot in the NFL. I mean, it's not a bad thing. I mean, I feel like it ends up being a bad thing because you have people arguing who need to be on the same team. But for me, it's like, how do I avoid that? It's like, if I come in and just be really opinionated about this, I don't think that's going to work. So like, why I have the tools, like, and I have you guys too. You guys are awesome, right? We talk all the time. It's like, let me work backwards. You tell me where we need to be. And let me and Henry, our strength coach, figure out, is that feasible? And then let's figure out who's going to be in danger when they get back of reaching that goal, right? If we've got a bunch of guys in the red, like, hey, that idea of like so many bullpens a week, like maybe we need to chip it down, right? Because if we don't, you're not going to be able to throw them anyway because they're going to get hurt. They're going to be sore.
That issue of going, well, this guy says he's good to go, but now he's out for a week. So now not only do we have trouble in that one series when he gives up the home run, but now he's out for the week as well. So now we're losing him for 4 games in a sense, as opposed to just, hey, let's sacrifice the one.
Shutting someone down for the college season can be a disaster because you don't want to rush them back. So you're looking at, you shut them down with an injury, you're looking at maybe 3 weeks, right? If nothing's seriously wrong, they've got some overuse, they need some time off. Well, you gotta build them back up. You can't just a week after, if they stop throwing for 3 weeks, like they can't just pitch in a game that week. Most guys can't handle that, or they're going to be out longer. We're going to have a bunch of surgeries then. So for me too, the other thing that I look at is we're going to throw live. And that's the one challenge we have in the colder weather areas. We're going to be in cages throwing live. Well, if a guy's throwing too much and is fatigued and maybe isn't saying anything, because it's just normal soreness, right? That is going to be a part of your preseason, right? Guys are going to be more sore. Well, if he's not throwing as well, he's not going to have any confidence. So now he's got a whole repertoire of pitches. He has no confidence and he's fatigued. And now he's in a cycle and he's just spinning around. And our hitters feel great because they've been teeing off on guys who are throwing meatballs because they don't have strength and they have no control. So, I think looking at how we did it last year, I think we're hoping to make a lot of strides with just some of the decision making in part with this. And that's been the nice thing too, is the coaches, they have been a little less hands off with it, but it's not in a, hey, we don't want to know what's going on way. It's a, hey, we trust you to make a clinical decision based off one, injury risk and performance, because they know how badly I want to win too. So it's like, what are the numbers telling you and where do we need to go from there? Because I mean, even for, I wasn't sure I'd be able to get every single pitcher. I was like, give me the top 10 guys and like, can we buy these for them? right? It's going to be expensive, relatively speaking, like for us. And he was just like, oh, he's like, we'll figure out budget money for this. He's like, we're not going to, do this halfway. Like my head coach was like, we got 21 pitchers or 20 pitchers, like with some two-way guys. He's like, everybody's getting one if that's what we're going to do. He's like, and if you're going to use it, he's like, which I've seen, we're going to use it. He's like, and if you have problems, then, it's going to become a team mandated thing. So it's been awesome. I mean, I work out of a couple different buildings, so I'm running around a lot, and I've left 2 sensors in one building, 2 sensors in the other, one in the locker room. And everybody all the time is telling me like the baseball kids are in there constantly doing it, right after lift, whether I'm there or not, like kids are in there doing it, looking at their scores, talking about it. And I think it's been really helpful. It's also been really helpful, like strength and conditioning wise. I mean, we work really hard on the performance team together. So like when we did it last year and we had a bunch of IR deficiencies, it really forced us to sit down and be like, why are we so weak with internal rotators when that's such a big muscle group? And it's a little bit flipped this year, but the external rotation strength hasn't exactly gone down. It's just the internal rotation strength has gone up. So, and that is a positive though, because now, at least to me talking with Jordan, like, what else can we do? What kind of changes can we make? And then, our conversations.
I don't want to go too much into that, just so we don't give away anything.
Oh, sorry.
Obviously, I don't want to give away what you guys are doing, obviously, because there's some things that keep it unique. But
right.
We've talked about some of those individual things of switching stuff around. But I think you guys are going to make a good run at stuff, and I don't want to give out what we were discussing on that end.
Got it. I do think too, if it does help, like I won't be in that situation. Even last year, I wasn't in that situation again where the conversation is like, is he ready? Mm-hmm. Because, the app does some unique things where it helps you kind of figure that out. And I don't think I've seen that anywhere else. So if you're a pitching coach, and you should be, if you're at an elite level, like you and your athletic trainer should be pretty much hand in hand with everything. Your AT, like, or you should have armcare.com, and that should be helping you drive the decisions, because maybe the information you're getting is like, maybe he's not ready, but he's warming up and he says he feels good. He looks good. All the parties are aware of that. Maybe he's a little low. And then you can kind of make a decision from there, but at least it's an educated decision as opposed to me just kind of standing out on a mound in March in Long Island being like, I think he can go back in. Like,
and then that's the big thing too, is if you're doing those exams on a regular basis, now you can look at that and you can tell your manager can start making those decisions instead of going, I'm going to send him back out. Now, this guy's recovered. He's throwing well. He's going back out. Or he's throwing adequate.
Yeah.
Strengths down a little bit. I don't feel like rolling the dice. I don't feel like betting my job on this right now. I'm going to go to somebody else.
Yeah. It definitely lets you build a pattern once you – and as you get buy-in with your kids too, right? I mean, I think that's also the important part. So it's been great for me to like help educate them on their arms and like what – they don't realize – especially the freshmen, like once they get here, the work it's going to take to be a collegiate athlete, and then the work it's going to take to take care of their arm, until all of a sudden now I'm like, oh, your arm care scores down. Oh yeah. Like I know that, like, let me tell you why I know that. Cause I watch you play catch every day and you're burning your arm up, or I watch you in your pen throw effortlessly and you're throwing hard, and then you get in the game and you're trying to throw as hard as you possibly can, and the ball's ringing off the backstop. And that kind of, but it builds trust. It builds a lot of trust because they know, one, that I'm using something that's within their best interest, and that, there's a level of dedication here that they might not have been getting in some of their other places, because like we're going to use everything we can to try and make the best decisions possible for them, and if we need to change stuff, like we will, or we have, or I have data that goes back now through the fall. I have data that goes back through for a full year for these kids in the arm care portal, that we can sit down and break down how their whole year has gone, their ups, their downs, show them that, progress isn't truly linear, right? That they're always asking me why their arm care score, like why it drops and goes back up. And I'm like, well, what were we doing that week? And then, when it's like, oh, that was the biggest week of the fall. It's like, yeah. And then let's look at when we left at the end of November, you had your highest score. So we built a lot of strength, but it is going to go up and down, and you have to trust that. And it's no different. It's no different really for any other type of success. But it is awesome to be able to give them that feedback.
Absolutely. Jimmy, I can't tell you how happy it makes Jordan and I to hear how you're implementing this, because we deal with so many, especially younger athletes, where velocity is all they're concerned about. And, we have to talk velocity and do that, and that's fine. But really, the vision behind arm care and why we're so excited about it is exactly the story you're telling. And we're just very happy to get it out there and let people hear about it. I know we got your strength coach wants to be on here. I can't wait to get him in here and get Ryan on as well and really get into some details and stuff. But I think this was a great one to get set up, and love it, and we really appreciate you being here. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you guys so much for having me on, and really for all the support. You're not just purchasing the dynamometer, you're getting pretty much the whole team. If I ask Jordan if I can give him a call in the morning, he's like, yeah, he gives me a couple times in the afternoon. He's like, let me know when you're free. And you guys are always happy to kind of break stuff down and fill in the gap. So I think, it does take a village, and you were expanding it significantly when you kind of buy this product and dive deep into it.
Love it. All right. Appreciate it. Until next time.
Perfect. Thank you.